Hi there, I'm Tomas Michaud from Real Guitar Success. Today, I want to give you 7 tips that'll help you to play chords clean, smooth, without buzzing, and without muted notes. Now, after the 7 tips, I'm going to give you a bonus tip, and it is by far the most important tip. So if you find the 7 tips trivial, skip past them, get to the end where I give you my bonus tip. So with that, let's get started with the 7 tips. Tip number 1 is start off with a good hand position. Now, there's no absolute one right way it should look, and everybody's hand's a little bit different, but there are some guiding principles. In general, I prefer to have the thumb behind the neck. It can be straight up and down or off to an angle, but in general, I want to have the thumb behind the neck and space between the fingers and the hand as it comes around the guitar neck. Have the elbow kind of relaxed, tucked into your side, but not hard tucked in, just gently hanging down. When you grab the guitar, the idea is that you're not going to grab it so hard that your hand hurts, but you want to put enough pressure, of course, that the note sounds good. And a lot of that has to do with the angle of your fingers. So it's not just a matter of pressing harder. You want to try and get the right angle for your hand, and it'll take some experimenting. That brings me to the fingers, tip number 2. In general, you want your fingers to go up and back down. Now, there's, again, no absolute perfect there. And some chords, it can look more angled and some a little bit less. But you want to avoid a real flat finger. Again, you won't be able to keep from hitting other strings if you do that. So for tip number 3, I'm going to bring up that you want to keep the nails on your left hand short. And, of course, I've had many female students that kind of grumble around that, and they try it, and they agree with me after a while. But even I have to watch that. I find my nails just grow, and I don't really pay attention to it. And all of a sudden, I'm having a hard time making a chord. It either hurts my finger, or I have to press extra hard, and I realize my nails have grown. So you want to pay attention to that and keep them short. Tip number 4 is when you're making a chord, put your fingers as close to the fret that it's just behind. In other words, if I'm making a G chord, my second finger here is on the 3rd fret. I say on the 3rd fret, but I never mean exactly on the fret, just behind the fret. Get it as close to the fret as you can, but not on top. The farther it is back, the harder you have to press to make a decent sound. So you're going to not only make a better sound, but you're going to relieve some tension and pain in your hand if you practice getting close to the fret. Now, that's the key. Practice. It's not something that if you think hard enough about it every time, you're going to be lost before you get to the next chord in a chord progression. You want to practice it so it becomes a habit. And some chords you can get closer to the fret than others. You work at it, you get better at it, and then it just seeps into your playing. Tip number 5, try not to angle your wrist too much. It's okay if it bends a little, but don't angle it like this to try to make the chord. First of all, that's going to hurt you over time, but it's not the most efficient way to make a chord. You want to keep your wrist relaxed on the straighter side as opposed to angle, and that'll change. You'll notice when I do bar chords, I have to angle more. There's no way out. So there's not one right angle you keep the whole time. But in general, less angled than more, and not rigidly straight either. You don't want a lot of tension in your hand. And you'll find over time that it's actually a more efficient way to bend your fingers and make the chords. Tip number 6 is you want to work at how much pressure you need to make that chord. And this, again, will take some practice and paying attention. So what I'm talking about is how hard you actually need to press to make the sound of the note. When you make a chord, you can press really hard and it'll sounds good. I can press a little less and it still sounds good. That's what you want. You want the least amount of pressure and have the note still sound good. Now that will also be kind of a test of how you're angling your fingers and your hand and the other parts. The more you get the angle of your fingers correct and the wrist position correct, the easier it is to make the chord and the less pressure you'll have to use. What I like to have students do is once in a while just try to see how much pressure they actually need to make a note. Because I often find that students just get in the habit of pressing as hard as they can, and they don't really realize they could lighten up and still get a good sounding note. Pay attention to that and try once in a while just making a chord and see how hard you have to press to make the sound of the chord. Tip number 7. I've went over a lot of things, and if you try to pay attention to all that at once, you're not going to be able to play. You're going to be frozen up with angling your fingers and getting close to the fret. they need to become a habit. And to do that, you need to practice it. And to practice it, I recommend making a game out of practicing the chord. A game I like to have students play is to make one chord at a time, put their hand down at their side, and count 5 and see how quickly they can make the chord. 3, 4, 5. Did it. And then keep shortening the amount of time it takes till you get to 1. 1. So by making a game out of it, it becomes a little more fun, and you need some kind of challenge to make a game out of it. If you can't measure it with how long it takes, you don't know if you're getting better or not. So you'll know if it took you 5 seconds to make the chord and to sound good. Over time, you get to 3 seconds, you'll know you improved. And you keep wanting to get down to 1 second where you can just make the chord. Do that for each of the chords you're using, and you'll get the chords better and better. Of course, all that while, you're kind of paying attention a little bit. Am I close to the fret? Is my hand angled? And little by little, that becomes a habit. So here's my bonus tip for you. When I first started playing guitar, it seemed like everything I tried on the guitar wouldn't work, at least not at first, and sometimes for quite a while. Now I can play things I never imagined. Now, I'm not exceptionally talented. I have very talented friends, so I have a comparison there. I'm probably about average. Heck, I don't even know why I stuck with it. Probably just to spite my dad, who thought I was wasting my time. Looking back, I realize how hard it is to imagine what you're doing in the beginning, how it will turn out later. Now, there are certainly some talented people, but everyone at the beginning couldn't play a lick, possibly with the exception of Jimi Hendrix. There's a rumor he came out of his mom with a guitar in his hand. But everyone else basically had to struggle and learn no matter how talented they were. They all had doubts. They probably, at one point or another, felt like giving it up. The best tip I can give you is to keep on trying, no matter whether or not it seems like what you're doing can eventually turn out to real guitar playing. All the tips I've given you will help you go faster, and it's important to learn things from other people. But all the tips and lessons on YouTube and from teachers, they can't make up for giving a half-hearted try and then hanging it up, saying, I tried, I couldn't do it. And remember, there are no two people that are the same. So all these tips are not like the gospel Bible. You're going to have to experiment, try things out, decide what works for you, discard what doesn't, and try other things out. You have to find your own way. And there's no shortcut. You're going to just have to keep at it and keep doing things until it works. You try something, it works, great. You try something else, it doesn't. Let it go. Keep trying until you find something that works for you. And who knows, if you just keep at it, you're likely at some point to impress yourself. Thanks for joining me today. If you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. And let me know what kinds of lessons you'd like to see me make in the comments below. Bye for now.